All right, we are live. Sunny days in Flushing. Start of the Washington series. I'm trying to get situated here.
Yeah.
Everything's a mess on this table. Start of the Washington series. Mets need to right the ship, right? That's the
Oh
title of
yeah.
the show. They need to right the ship tonight, starting tonight in Washington, get themselves back to 500. As we said last night, this is a series you've got to win at least three. We know it's hard to sweep, especially on the road. You've got to find a way to win three. However you do it, you got to do it, and you need to do it preserving this bullpen. Right? I mean, bullpen. The past two losses, a lot of that can be attributed by guys in the bullpen are exhausted. They're throwing a ton of innings. I mean, if you pretty much combine what this bullpen's thrown this year, it's very close to what we've seen out of our starters, and that's
Probably.
not that's not a good thing.
No, it's terrible. You can't have that, especially when we're down a man like Edwin Diaz, and not being able to replace him with someone from AAA or wherever else. So they're going to be taxed for a bit. Thankfully, we got the All-Star break coming up soon. Get some guys some rest, but we make it through this stretch against some lower competition. Had a lot of winnable games before this break. You need to take advantage of it.
So we're gonna get into some bad news first, and then
Well, kind of bad news. Not what you want to hear, but
bad news. It's bad
yeah.
news, right? Your starting center, your left
Oh
fielder,
yeah.
falls coming out of the shower, cuts his head open. That's not a good thing. Now, the silver lining of this is that not a concussion, right?
Not a concussion.
So,
He said to be okay. He was at the ballpark, sitting with reporters, giving a breakdown of what happened. So seems to be that he's okay and should be back out there shortly, hopefully.
it's not the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not what you want, especially when a guy like Nimmo is hot. He's
Yeah.
hitting for power. He's really becoming a bit of a catalyst for this
Yeah.
lineup, and it sucks to lose him. But it's why you've got depth. It's why you've got, and this is where you kind of look at a guy, and I don't know if he's in the lineup for tonight, but DJ Stewart, right? Like
No, he's
he,
not.
he's not in the lineup, but
No.
this is an opportunity for you to step up.
No.
Right, you can't always count your reps. You got to make your reps count. It's very easy for me and you in these chairs to kind of say those things, but
No.
that's the God's honest truth when it comes to sports, especially professional sports. So you've got an all-star in front of you, but now that guy's hurt, and he may miss a day or two or three or four, maybe a week. Who knows, right? So this is your opportunity to take those at bats and find a way to get on base, find a way to move runners over, drive runs in, and so. That sucks, but not the end of the world. Let's get into some good news here, Zach. Christian Scott is back on Wednesday. Originally, we thought it was Tuesday. Now it seems like the Mets have confirmed he is coming back Wednesday. That is great news.
It's amazing news. And, me being a little bit selfish was wishing it was Thursday, but just happy to see him back up here because his abilities and his just presence on the mound is much needed here because our starters have not been getting the job done, at least not to the degree we want them to. And what he did here, coming up and kind of just taking it over and being the second best starter to Severino in his month here, it really shows how good of a pitcher he is this early on in his career. And if he can come up and be a catalyst and maybe prove to management that he should be here over Tyler McGill, maybe we can get some more wins. Maybe we can get further into the win, further above 500.
And you feel for a kid like Christian Scott because he comes up here, does phenomenal in his debut. 6 and 2/3. I want to say gave up one run, looked fantastic. Was a little shaky after that, but definitely not shaky enough that he had to be sent back down. We know why he was sent down, right? The Mets needed more help in the bullpen, and he has options, and it was math, and it makes sense on a management end. But if you're Christian Scott, that sucks. And I think there is a fire ignited under this guy's ass that says, I don't give a fuck what they need. I'm not going back down. I don't belong in Syracuse. I don't belong in Binghamton. I belong up here with the big league club doing everything I can to get this team into the playoffs this year. And I mean, he's definitely, we know he's got the talent, right? We know he's got the stuff. Can he put it all together? He should be able to. We saw a lot of flashes of brilliance when he was up here. And you just hope the kid can continue that.
Yeah, I think there's no reason he won't be able to. I mean, you're going up against a Nationals team that really doesn't have a ton going for them, at least offensively, and just just having him come up here, and you saw it when he first came up, that he was able to take over some of these games against some better teams. Yeah, he's a little bit shaky here and there, but that's expected out of someone as young as Christian Scott getting his first taste in the major leagues. So I expect him to come back up with a ton of fire and just ready to go, jumping out of the gate.
Zach, I see you laughing at some of these comments here we got from Stevie Mack. Nemo using too much KY jelly in those hotel rooms. You know what? Honestly, if this
good for him if he is.
If this were someone else on this team that this had happened to,
yeah.
I almost feel like in typical LOL Mets fashion, we'd be looking back saying, like, there's no way this guy fell in the shower. Like, something else happened. He got into a bar fight. He got into whatever. But
the Christian Nimmo probably not him doing anything.
Probably not, right? He probably had a warm glass of milk, went to bed nice and early last night. And, yeah, maybe he was cranking his shaft in the shower. He fell over. That sucks. But nonetheless, we move on. We digress. Yuki brought it up. Let's talk about it now. Senga is pitching in Brooklyn Wednesday. He's pitching for Brooklyn? Is he going to be in Brooklyn?
Well, yeah. Actually, I don't know if he's exactly in Brooklyn. He's pitching for the Cyclones, and hopefully it's a solid start to a rehab assignment. Probably won't go too long, maybe 2-3 innings. Normal spring training progression, but all goes well. He'll be back up here probably August 1st, and that'll be like we've been talking about. We mentioned a few times, like a pseudo type trade deadline acquisition, getting a pitcher of his caliber back, and, right around the trade deadline to kind of bolster the starting rotation would be massive for the Mets. I mean, guys like Manaea, Peterson, Quintana. We'll get to McGill later because who knows, might be done for him here right now. They got to be watching their backs because guys like Christian Scott, who's up here now, Senga's on the horizon. Buddha, we're going to get to him later. He's coming up soon, hopefully. These guys all ready to take their spots. So those three guys have targets on their backs.
And fans need to, and it's so hard to tell fans this, especially Mets fans, but we've really got to be patient with Senga, right? This was a really, really awkward kind of injury, very concerning for a pitcher, for an outfielder, for a catcher, guys that a lot of, overhand throwing motion. This is tough, right? And the biggest part of the injury, now I'm no doctor. I mean, I got to reiterate, I dig holes for a living, but I can tell you this, if you're a pitcher and you had a shoulder injury, you should probably be real careful with that. And the Mets and Senga were obviously very careful with that. This is not something you could rush back, nor will I think the Mets try to do that, no matter what the outcome of the next 4 or 5 weeks is. If there is a setback, we need to be able to accept that as a fan base. And you can't flail your arms. And I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody how to act or how to think, but that's kind of expected. And it already kind of happened, right? Because the original timeline of this injury put him back in a Mets uniform probably around Memorial Day. Right. No. That was the original middle of May, maybe Memorial Day, which I didn't believe. Right. And I had conveyed that to you.
Yeah.
But, this is something that takes time. So as a fan base, we've got to be patient with this.
Yeah. There's no need to rush him back. I mean, we are pushing for potential wild card placement or even maybe a division, God willing. So we would need him back. But if he's not ready, if there's any type of setback, don't be surprised if he gets shut down for the rest of the year. I mean, this is something that they've taken very carefully, and they're clearly still looking towards next year, while they have, hinted at the fact, or at least Stearns has, that if they are in a race, they will be buying. To what degree, we don't know. But you got to figure that if any type of, no matter how minor it is, if he is set back at all, you got to figure he's going to be shut down for the rest of the year.
Did not mean to put that back up. Yeah, I agree. So let's get right into it. Yeah. Tonight, on the mound, we've got Peterson and Gore, and I hear my dog going nuts upstairs. So you start us off, and I'm going to check the ring cameras.
I'll get us started off here. I mean, we all know what David Peterson is. He's been okay so far this year. I don't think he's been terrible. I think he's been a bit lucky. He's gotten he's lined up a ton of walks, something that he's going to have to limit. He's benefited from some good defense behind him. So he's someone that's going to need to be able to limit those walks and get deeper into these games, especially with how taxed our bullpen has been. And again, like I mentioned before, he's someone that has a target on their back right now with Scott, Budo, Senga, all lurking. So he very well could be the next person to be sent down because he has options left, like McGill did before he got sent down. So this is a nut up or shut up kind of performance for Peterson tonight, especially against a good pitcher in Mackenzie Gore, who had a rough June. And we did tag him for 6 runs, and that started at the beginning of the June when we did sweep the Nats. So I'm sure he's not too thrilled about that. He's probably looking for some blood, but Peterson needs to prove that he deserves a spot on this starting staff.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I don't know if you had gotten into inning length with him too much.
No, and I mean I just brought up. I didn't bring anything up, but I mean 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's got to be the minimum. You want more, but we got to be talking about a minimum of 5 innings just to give guys like Reed Garrett and Diekman further rest because, they have a day off yesterday, but they threw a ton of pitches over the weekend. So getting them another day and getting them back to really full strength for tomorrow, the rest of the series, and going into that Pirates series would be key.
Where I'm kind of at with this series as a whole is, and I know we take this day by day, what I'm looking at here, whether it's tonight or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you need 6 to 7 innings, at least 2 out of these 4 nights. Ideally, would be great if 3 nights we could have a starter going to the 6th, or finish the 6th rather. But we need that. Like what 100%. This team could not afford, because I believe we're playing like 15 games in 15 days, or something like 15 games in 16 days, something weird like that. There's a lot of games in succession for this team. You don't have any built-in days off unless some rain comes. And if the rain does come, you're making it up the next day. And it's a doubleheader. So it ain't really much better. We need a game. We need multiple games in this series, 2 to 3, where the starters go 6 to 7. We desperately need that. I mean, if you have a night where the offense could go off, you could let, for example, tonight, if Peterson could get into the 7th with something like a 5-6 run lead, and you don't need to go to a guy like a Diekman, a Reed Garrett, an Ottavino. You could go to one of these, minor leaguers that they're going to call up, that they have already called up, and let them. I mean, listen, it wouldn't shock me.
Or I'd be comfortable going to Nunez, let him get finished off the game with 2 innings, something like that. And that's
I was about to say
really
Adrian Hauser. It would not shock me if there is a game in this series where Adrian Hauser gets another 3-inning save that we saw him get last week.
That'd be awesome.
Right? That would be awesome. It wouldn't shock me. This team needs it. And as a guy like McGill gets sent down, maybe in the coming weeks we see him come back up in that, because that seems to be, I mean, barring injury, right? Knock on wood, barring injury, that seems to be the role that he's going to fill.
Yeah.
Is kind of a long innings eater, because like I said, barring injury, I don't see them allowing him to come back into this rotation with what we've seen.
No, I agree, and we'll get to that later. But they need length, and it starts tonight. You hope, like I said, 5 innings minimum, but you really need 6. You need 6+ a few times this series. And I don't know, Yuki just brought up Gore got into a shoving match with a teammate, so clearly tempers have been flaring a bit there in DC. He had a rough June. His ERA ballooned up almost the whole point. I think he went up like 0.81 or something in June. So he's had a rough go of it. And this is a good pitcher. Big strikeout guy, averaging like 10 strikeouts per 9. And the Mets need to be able to jump all over him, get to him early in some counts, especially with some pitches they like. Get Peterson a lead. Let him pitch comfortable. Let him pitch loose. So hopefully he can get deeper into the game. It needs to come from both ends here tonight. It's going to be a collective effort against what I think is the Nationals' best pitcher.
Definitely. I mean, he got called up last year, right?
He's been up and down. So he was with the Padres. He was a part of the Juan Soto trade. So he's been up and down with the Padres and now with the Nats. But I think when did Soto get traded? Not last year, the year before, right?
I thought last.
Whenever Soto was traded, he's pretty much been up with the Nats since. I mean, maybe sent up and down, but
So we got Mania versus Hers tomorrow night.
Tuesday night, yep.
I believe that's also a 6:45 game.
Yep.
Mania has been very middle of the road, at times disappointing, but he's another guy. I really think similar to Peterson, you hope you could get to 6 innings with 2 runs of damage, 3 runs maybe, and kind of figure it out from there. If you could get that out of Mania, you feel good about winning. But once again, if Peterson and Mania are not really able to go long into these games, you're really putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Christian Scott coming back Wednesday, and obviously Quintana coming, to likely to pitch Thursday, which we'll get to. And keep in mind too, you're talking about going, this is something that no one's really thought of, or really that I've heard much. Wednesday into Thursday. Wednesday's game, I believe, is a 6:45.
Yeah, and Thursday's 11:10.
Exactly. Thursday's 11 o'clock in the morning. So a lot. I would assume all of the relievers we use Wednesday are going to be unavailable for Thursday.
Most likely, depending.
Right. So, I mean, and that really is asking a lot if you ask a guy to literally come back in, 8-9 hours later to pitch again, 10 hours later. So it is crucial, really crucial, that we get the length out of the Peterson, Mania, and
start the series.
Yeah,
and with Mania, like you brought up, a lot like Peterson this year, and the stats don't necessarily reflect it, but he has been better. But again, the walks are killing him. He's someone that's averaging 4 walks per 9, and this is 0.8 points higher, 0.8 walks higher per 9 than his career high, which was last year. I mean, that's ridiculous. So he needs to really limit those walks, because he's even shown you in starts where he's allowed 3-4 walks early in the game, he's still able to go 6 innings because he's had some good stuff. It's just a matter of that one inning that kind of got away from him. He needs to put it all together. He needs to be able to limit those walks and pitch more to contact. We got some good defense behind these guys. Both Peterson and him pitch to contact. They got stuff that plays for it. We got guys like Lindor back there. We got Vientos. I mean, I know he's a little bit shaky at times, but he's been getting better and better. And even Iglesias in the field tonight. So let these guys make some plays behind you. You're going to need to, because if we keep trying to pitch to strikeouts, it's going to kill these guys. It really is.
I think it was Mania, one of the Subway Series games, got real lucky in an inning and literally had, I think he had like a pop out, let someone on, and then immediately a double play right after. Like I think Mania had like 3 or 4 double play balls in the Subway Series. Like very, 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 I shouldn't say very lucky, but we got an extra kind of inning out of him where he only threw a few pitches, which you'll always take that. But I'm just saying, I mean,
not gonna happen all the time.
It's not, and I cannot stress enough the length that these guys got to go to.
100%, and especially in the game against Hers, he's a young pitcher who, again, we went out and we put up 4 runs in 4 innings against him earlier in June, and he's someone that really hasn't been amazing since he's been up. He is young. He's a top 15-ish prospect in the national system, and he's been allowing a lot of home runs, 5 in June. So if the Mets offense can get to him, maybe that can, again, I could pitch a little bit loose, and maybe the Mendoza will be more inclined to let him go a little bit further, get a little bit above that pitch, that pinch count.
Keep in mind too, something that I forgot. That stretch where the Mets won those 7 straight games.
Yeah.
At the start of those series, the Texas series, and then what was the series before that? Was it Washington?
Yeah, Nationals. No. Diamondbacks, maybe? Maybe it was Washington. I don't know. So I know they swept the Nationals at the beginning of June.
So it was the Cubs at the start of both that Cubs and Texas series. What you've got to remember is the Mets were able to get to both of those starting pitchers on the first days of those series immediately. They were able to start scoring runs first, second, third inning, and they had pushed those pitchers out early. I think there was one game where the starter came out like midway through the second or the third. So that sets off a chain reaction for the rest of that series.
Yeah, especially this being a 4-game series.
Right.
Pitching and going against a weak Nationals bullpen, that is going to be key.
If you could get to Gore tonight, like early, you could set yourself up very well. I mean, without even talking about our starting pitching and the longevity that they need to get to. If you can get to Gore early, if you could get to Hers early, you really could set up a nice next 2 days for yourself, or at least the next day.
Yeah,
because you tax the shit out of that bullpen.
Yeah,
that's crucial. That's got to happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. And they really needed to get it. I mean, I don't even can't really even follow that up because you nailed it on the head.
Well, I do use a hammer for a living. Scott versus Parker. I'm going to grab another water. Start us off here, Bass.
Go for it. I'll go for it. Christian Scott. I mean, we know what he's about. He's an electric pitcher who is just a high strikeout guy, high intensity guy, and someone with some electric stuff. I mean, 4 pitches that all play, and he's just someone that the team needs, especially coming off. I think it's going to be 7 days of rest once he goes out on Wednesday. So, just again, someone that's going to be rested, hopefully able to give you some length, something he was able to do when he was here back in May. So hopefully the trend can continue there, and he can go out and give you 6-7 innings. And we know his one flaw is the home run ball. I mean, through June in AAA, he's allowed 4 earned runs, and 3 of them are on solo shots. So this is someone where his biggest flaw, and maybe his only flaw, is what he does giving up the home run. I mean, he's someone that needs to limit that, and this is true ace potential here. Going against Parker, a younger pitcher, again, someone who, oddly enough, was a home run. He allowed a ton of home runs in AAA, and has since come up and limited the home runs and limited the walks. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday night. 2 guys that have been known to give up a ton of home runs, and we'll see if we can have some fireworks going off right before the 4th.
Yes, we would like to see some fireworks, and hopefully everyone keeps their fingers. Knock on wood.
Jason Pierre-Paul situation.
Definitely looking forward to this. This is probably the most exciting matchup of the week in terms of this series. You want to see Scott get off to a nice start. You want to see him, like we said with the other 2, you want to see the innings, but you want to see him collected. You want to see him calm.
Yeah.
If he gets a couple of runners on, that's where I'm going to be watching intently, right? I mean, it seems like a lot of guys could pitch from the windup with no issue. No runners on. There's a lot less pressure. And yeah, that's been his bugaboo, right? The solo shots in AAA, and that sucks. And hopefully we could limit that. But what I want to see is, how does he handle a runner on third or a runner on second, 1 out?
Yeah.
And he's coming up to the top of the order. How does he handle that? And if it's anything like that first start, then yeah, we should be great, But that's what I'm looking for with him. Similar to when Peterson had come up, and it's so hard because Peterson came up during COVID, nobody in the stand, so I guess it was hard to kind of judge, but that was the one thing I had noticed about Peterson, was that his stuff wasn't great. He wasn't blowing the doors off. He wasn't blowing anybody away, but he would load the bases and get out of it, which is the total opposite of what he's done recently. But
it's very Jacob deGrom-esque by Peterson early in his career, and hopefully Scott could be the same, because he showed it to us in that first start. I mean, I'm pretty sure in that first inning against the Rays, he had the bases loaded with 1 out, maybe no outs, and I think he only allowed 1 run, and then just completely calm down and shut them down from their own out. So again, we know his stuff is amazing, and it's just a matter if he can come back up here with the confidence to be able to do it, and I think he can. And these first 3 games in Washington are pretty funny. We're going against 3 lefties, and we have the 6th best average against left-handed pitchers in all of baseball. So hopefully our guys can get keep it rolling from June and really tee off on these 3 lefties we got going.
That is big. I remember hearing that today on WFAN, and I was like, "Wow, 3 straight fucking lefties." I thought we had a good amount of lefties, but that's wild. That we might end up having 3 lefties in this series too.
Yeah, probably will.
Probably will, right? Because Quintana is likely to go on Independence Day versus Irvin.
4th of July.
You'll be in attendance. Where
I will
be sitting at that game?
Don't know yet. Didn't get seats yet. Gonna wait, closer to the game. Try to get some cheaper seats on TickPick or something. But when I find out, I'll tweet it out. If anyone's in the area and wants to come say hello, more than welcome.
What do we think about this?
I mean, I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but Quintana, just someone that needs to give you length, and someone that needs a lot. Stop allowing the home run ball. He's allowed a lot of home runs this year, and someone that in his career really hasn't allowed many. Last year, I think he only allowed half a home run per 9 innings, which is really low for just really low in general, but also for his career was a career low for him.
This is a really important start for Quintana.
Yeah. I mean, like we brought up before, him, Mania, Peterson had targets on their back, and I think none bigger than Quintana because he's the one where he's older and he's probably kind of losing a place here. He's probably not going to be here after the end of this season. So,
and this was a guy that you could count on. This was a guy that we went into the season thinking like, okay, we know we'll get 6 or 7 out of him, 2 or 3 earned runs, but it'll always be like that. And it really hasn't been. He's been very up and down, mostly down. And, you talk about guys having a target on their back. No. I think the guy with the biggest fucking target on his back is Jose Quintana. He is the guy easiest at this point to replace. He's probably shown us the least, and his age is not helping him. And especially, I mean, alluding to it, we'll get into it in a minute, but with Jose Butto potentially on the horizon, I know they talked about him in a bullpen kind of role when he first comes up, but Butto's a starter. And this is a shit or get off the pot situation. Quintana comes out here and shits down his leg. I don't know how many more starts the Mets give him. I would venture to say that this might be, if he really blows this up, this might be his last start in a Mets uniform. I mean, maybe not.
Close
but
to it. No.
I'd say second to last. Like, they're not really going to give you too many more chances after this, especially if the team continues to win.
100%.
I mean, if the team looked like shit, they wouldn't care. They'd hold on to him till the deadline. If they can't trade him, drop him. That's what would happen. But, man, they're making a playoff push. They need to know who they could rely on. And at this point, too, Quintana is in his age. He's not a guy you're going to put out in the bullpen. Probably not. You've got Hauser. You've got McGill that you could probably do that with.
Nunez can give you length.
Right. So, there really is the only place for Quintana is as a starter.
Yeah.
And if he can't show us that, and really this next start, I think this is it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, he had a solid June, and hopefully he can build on that and really prove to us and himself and the Mets management that he deserves to be on this team. Because look, we could use some veteran presence, and we do have Severino and Mania who are veterans, but he's someone who's been around for a while, and I'm sure he was here last year too, so he knows a lot of the guys, and someone that could really lead that pitching staff. And he really hasn't shown that this year. He's been, again, I feel like we're beating a dead horse, but someone that just walks a ton of batters, tons of traffic, and you need to get deeper into games. You need to lead by example for these young guys like Scott and Butto. And we're going to get to it in a minute. Butto, who should hopefully be up soon, and we'll see what kind of role it's in, but it seems like it's going to be in a role where they want to keep him lengthened out to be a starter. So clearly they are getting themselves ready for life after Quintana, Mania, Peterson, whoever else, have already gotten themselves ready for life after McGill as a starter. So these guys, if they want to keep their spot in this rotation, they're gonna have to prove it.
And someone who we're talking about seats getting warm, and we're about to get into Butto potentially being back this week, but kind of on that same note, someone who shouldn't be too comfortable right now is Jeremy Hefner. And I'm not at all saying that they would make that change during the season, because they won't, right? It's a pitching coach, but just keep that in mind, right? This has been a few years in a row now of pitching, kind of being up and down, a lot of walks, not being able to limit those walks, at times not being able to put out the fire. I mean, the best way to combat that we have seen has been Mendoza with that quick hook on these starters. And although that is a detriment, right, because that's a double-edged sword. You're saving your game, but you are killing your bullpen. Jeremy Hefner's a guy whose seat's getting warm. I would say that. And not advocating to fire him, not saying that the Mets will make a change today, tomorrow, next week, or this season, but that change is coming if these walks continue.
I mean, touching that quickly before we get into Butto, it's tough because you also see guys like Severino, who was a clear reclamation project and has been amazing this year, and then you also get guys like Reed Garrett and Nunez, and guys of the and Hauser, once he got moved to the pen, have been amazing. So it's like, how much is it him? How much is it the pitchers? And they're just and their lack of talent. I mean, lack of talent. Like, I can go out there and throw to some of these major leaguers, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So
It's
at
a
a certain
it's
point,
a results driven business. I mean,
it is
that's
a
all I'm
results.
trying to say.
But if you're gonna kill him for guys like Quintana and McGill, you also got to give him his flowers for guys like Severino and Nunez and Garrett and Hauser when he moved to the bullpen. So it's like you gotta have it both. You can't have it one way or the other. You have to have it both ways. And clearly, right now, some stuff is working, some stuff isn't, and it's just a matter of getting the right personnel in here.
Butto potentially back this week. Now we saw. Who tweeted it? Mike Puma?
Mike Puma tweeted that they are talking about calling up Butto this week and keeping him in a long relief type of role, so similar to Hauser's, to keep him lengthened out for starters, for to be a starter. So clearly, not only do the Mets need bullpen help with Diaz being out and these guys getting taxed, but clearly they value Butto as a starter. Specifically mentioning that they want to keep him lengthened out. So I know you're not the biggest fan of putting him in the bullpen, but it's kind of an extreme circumstance with the taxation of the bullpen, no Diaz and everything that's going on. So
I don't. Tough. It's better than seeing his highlights from Syracuse.
Yeah.
All right. If that's what it takes for the next 2 weeks to have him in the bullpen.
No.
Okay, you know what? Fine, I'll take that. If that's the Mets' plan until like the All-Star break to then reset him to put him back in the rotation or whatever they want to do, fine. Honestly, if that's your plan for the rest of the season, I'll accept that too. Like as long as he's pitching up here and not down there, because down there doesn't help him anymore. Like he's got to see major league pitching and he's got to see it. And you know what? Yeah, we've taxed the fuck out of this bullpen. So if you're telling me we've got a guy like Butto that's ready to go and come in for 2 or 3 innings to finish out a game, or God forbid, a starter gets hurt or blows up in the first inning, and you've got someone you could go to like that Trevor Williams role, because we talk about Adrian Hauser like it's a Trevor Williams role, but it's not. Trevor Williams, if you guys remember in 2022, would come in at times for like 5 innings. Like there were games, maybe not 5 innings, but there were games where he would come in for 4 and a hook.
I mean, Hauser could do that.
Hauser can, but we haven't quite seen that. Most of his appearances have been 2 to 3 innings.
Yeah.
But if that's the role for Butto, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that the plan is on Thursday to let Quintana start, and the minute he shows any signs of weakness, you throw Butto out there, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because you're saving this bullpen and you're at least giving him major league appearances.
Yeah, and like you said, Thursday, I mean, that's as soon as he would be able to pitch with him going 2 days ago for Syracuse, which he had a great start. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs. I think he had 5 strikeouts and 2 walks as well.
2 base on balls, 5 strikeouts, yes, sir.
Yeah, so he had himself a great start. And, if he can parlay that into coming up here and, either being effective out of the pen and keeping himself lengthened out to where he can come back into a starting role, down the line in a couple weeks by the trade deadline, whatever it may be. That would be great for this team because I think right now, me, you, a lot of other people probably have more faith in him than guys like Quintana and Peterson, maybe Minaya too. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy to see him back up here and just, facing this type of talent where this is where he's going to be able to further develop because I think he's done all he can in AAA.
What do we have any closing notes here, Zach?
Some closing notes. I mean, I know we touched upon Christian Scott coming up Wednesday rather, and that's at the basically in place of Tyler McGill. I know he was sent down for I can't remember his name. The guy that blew the game for us yesterday. Festa. Can't fucking remember that, but Festa. But McGill now has to stay down in AAA for 15 days from when he was sent down. He was sent down Saturday night. And Sunday, so Sunday was the first day. He needs to be down there for 15 days. And I got to say, that's probably the end of McGill as a starter here. I mean, I can't envision a scenario where they trust him any further, especially on Saturday, a game where he needed to give us some length, knowing that we had a tough stretch ahead of us. Not necessarily in terms of the talent we're playing, but the sheer amount of games we're going in a row. Needed to give us some length, couldn't do that. And while Sunday, Severino kept us in it and it got blown by the bullpen, he kind of started the process of blowing it. He gave up some early runs, which were avoidable. And, if Christian Scott can come up here and continue to prove that he deserves that spot, I can't imagine McGill taking it back from him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see a world, once again, barring injury, right?
Somebody gets hurt, barring injury,
they'll bring him back in out of necessity, but I don't think they're going to trust him. I think he's got to do some soul searching. He's got to figure out. He's got to find a way to stay afloat on an MLB team. He does, and you know what? If that means that he's a great reliever, because that's the bullpen, right? The definition of the bullpen is failed starters, guys that couldn't really make it as a starter, and there is a very big role for guys that could come in for 1 or 2 innings and help move a game along. So, if that's his role with this team, once again, great, because we need that too. We've been taxing the fuck out of the guys that are there, and if you could give, Reed Garrett, Jake Diekman a night off, Adam Ottavino a night, a guy I don't fucking like, and he's looked all right, but I don't trust him. I don't trust him anymore. Just the way it is. If you could give those guys a night or 2 off, and you could come in and eat up an inning or 2, that's needed on this team too. So hopefully, for Tyler McGill's sake, hopefully that's what's in store for him.
Yeah, they really haven't given a legit chance there. They've thrown him in that role a few times here and there and kind of let him go for a couple appearances and whatnot. And it really hasn't worked out, but they haven't given him that extended look yet. And I think that's something that a lot of people have, clamored for the Mets to do. And especially since a lot of people think his stuff plays better for the bullpen, just considering the fastball, it is an electric fastball and something that he could probably gas up to, get it up a few miles per hour faster.
You got to remember,
shortening his appearances.
He was hitting in 22. He was hitting like 98.
Hey, he could hit 100. I mean, again, but he just can't do that when he's in a starting role. He has to tone that down a little bit to be able to go deeper into games. But it's also someone that is profiles as a power pitcher, so I think that benefit, a bullpen will benefit that.
Duran, we were just talking about this, putting some of these guys in the bullpen, replace them with Scott Muto. After the show, definitely scroll back to, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes ago. We were talking quite a bit about that. So we're in agreement with you, Duran. That's the direction we would like to see this go. I got nothing else. I
got a couple more things. I mean, for anyone that hasn't heard yet, the Nationals are calling up James Wood tonight. Okay. He's their number 1 prospect, number 3 overall in the MLB. Kid is electric. He's got some tons of pop. He's got some good speed on the base path, and he's someone that has been getting a ton of hype, and he's had himself a damn good season down in AAA. And tonight's about not letting him beat you, or not letting him beat you, but not giving him, not being fearful of him, going after him. He is a rookie. Go out there and give him the business. Don't be afraid to throw to him. Get after him. He's a high strikeout guy. Don't be afraid to give him some pitches to hit and let him be the one to beat you, not these other guys that have been up here for a while. And aside from that, it's just a matter of taking advantage of guys that we tagged earlier this month, guys that have had a rough June, and guys that are just not all that impressive on the Nationals side. Their bullpen is weak. Their starting rotation isn't the best, with I think Gore probably being the best of the bunch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And a weaker lineup, a team that did win a World Series 5 years ago, but is since depleted and trying to rebuild. So doing a good job of keeping them at bay, not letting these young kids come up and, catch fire against you, but also really being able to put them in their place and, show them, who the better team is, because the Mets most certainly.
Yeah, you got to get to Gore early.
Got to get to Gore early. Early. Guys that we've tagged and guys that have had rough months. So it's like I said,
that helped in the last series was getting to Gore early. Because I think the Nationals were counting on Gore the way we're talking about maybe Peterson and Manaea. They were counting on Gore to get them 6-7 innings of.
He's a good pitcher. He's having a solid year. I mean, up until that point, until he faced us in June, he had like a 2.8 ERA. He's having a damn good year.
Yeah.
And he had a rough start at his first start in June against us, and just kind of snowballed downhill. And hopefully we can continue the snowball. Getting to that bullpen early is going to be big because they really don't have anyone in that bullpen that you trust.
I agree. I agree with you, pal.
Yep.
Do you have what else you got? Do you have anything else?
It's about it. We kind of hit everything. In each segment, and just a matter of not to beat a dead horse. Like I've said before, these pitchers need to give us length. Peterson, Manaea, Scott, we know what he could do, and then Quintana. These three guys really need to go out there and prove to us what they're made of. This is a prove it series for them.
5 minutes of game time. What's your score prediction tonight?
Score prediction. I'm thinking it's going to be a low scoring.
Are you gambling?
Affair.
Are you gambling on this?
I'm not gambling. I'm thinking a lower scoring affair. I'm thinking the Mets are going to come out there and win 5-2. I think Peterson's going to hold them down. I think they're going to be uber aggressive, and I think Peterson's going to shut a lot of people up tonight. 6 1/3. 2-run ball.
6 1/3, 5-2. Over-unders at 8.5. I think the Mets Nationals are going to be right below that. 5-3, 6-2.
9 runs for Peterson. Shit, I didn't know that, Yuki. Maybe let's forget I said anything. And
Mets win 15-2. Yuki, from your lips to God's ears.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think regardless, it's a bounce-back game for this team. The offense kind of stumbled a bit for the second half of Saturday's game and the first half of Sunday's game. I do see them going out there, putting up some hits. Being without Nimmo is a little bit of a detriment to them, but Harrison Bader against lefties is big. He's hitting the 2-hole tonight, so I do see the hitters going out there getting some hits. I don't think it's going to be the highest scoring affair, but I do think we're going to knock around Gore. But we're going to get him out early. He's going to pitch a lot, and he's going to have to come out maybe fourth or fifth inning.
That would be dynamite.
Yeah, especially how we hit lefties.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to see 3 of them, like we said. So
exactly.
All right.
What's your score prediction? Anything for you?
I said 5-3, 6-2.
Okay,
I think we're going to stay right under the 8.5
over under.
mark.
All right. Hey, hopefully they win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, fucking A. All right. LFGM.
Yep.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Duran, Yuki, Stevie Mac, thank you guys for tuning in. Anyone else that didn't comment, thank you guys.
Stay tuned to the socials. We will let you all know when we're going live again. I don't know when that'll be.
Probably won't be until after the 4th. Maybe that's Saturday or Sunday after the 4th. We'll see what schedules work. I'll be away for a couple of days, but we'll definitely be live next weekend sometime to recap the National Series and kind of break down what has happened so far in the Pirate Series and what is going to happen in the next couple of days.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's go Mets.
Thank you, everyone. Happy 4th of July. And